The night sky over Earth had always been a source of wonder, filled with twinkling stars and quiet mystery. But tonight, it was anything but peaceful. The darkness above was suddenly interrupted by thousands of lights, bright, unnatural, and menacing. These were not stars. They were ships, alien ships, more than anyone could count, spreading across the heavens like a swarm of fireflies, except these fireflies carried weapons capable of wiping out entire cities. In Colorado Springs, Captain Ryan Carter sat in the dimly lit control room of NORAD headquarters. His face was tense as he stared at the screens showing real-time images of the alien fleet surrounding Earth. The room buzzed with activity. Officers shouted orders. Technicians typed furiously on keyboards, and phones rang nonstop. Everyone knew this was bad. Really bad. Humanity wasn't ready for something like this. Beside him stood Dr. Laura Bennett, a civilian astrophysicist who had been studying strange signals from deep space for months. She was younger than most people in the room, her blonde hair tied back into a loose ponytail, but she carried herself with confidence. Her eyes darted between the monitors, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. "This doesn't look like an exploration mission," she said quietly. "They came prepared." Ryan nodded, his jaw tightening. "Prepared for war." He turned to one of the officers. "What's our status?" "Sir, we've scrambled all available fighters." But the officer hesitated, glancing nervously at the screen. "Our systems are outdated. Their technology is far beyond ours. We don't even know if our missiles will work against them." Laura leaned closer to the monitor, squinting at the shapes of the ships. They weren't uniform. They varied in size and design. Some small and sleek, others massive and bristling with weapons. It reminded her of a colony of insects, each playing its part in a larger hive. "Look at how they're positioned," she murmured. "It's almost strategic, like they've done this before." Ryan rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "So, what do you think? What's their endgame?" Before Laura could answer, another voice cut through the chaos. "Captain Carter." A young lieutenant rushed over, holding a tablet. "We just received confirmation. Multiple countries are reporting sightings of smaller ships breaking off from the main fleet. Some are entering Earth's atmosphere." Ryan's heart sank. This was it. First contact, and not the kind anyone hoped for. "Where?" he demanded. "Everywhere," the lieutenant replied grimly. "Russia, China, Europe, South America. Everywhere." Laura felt a chill run down her spine. If the aliens were deploying troops all over the globe, there was no way Earth could defend itself. Not without a miracle. "We need to figure out what they want," she said urgently. "Why are they here? Are they looking for resources, land, or maybe they don't care about us at all?" Ryan finished for her. His voice was low but steady. "Maybe we're just in their way." The two exchanged a glance, both understanding the gravity of the moment. Whatever happened next would change everything, for better or worse. Outside, the skies continued to fill with alien vessels, their cold, metallic surfaces reflecting the light of the moon. Below, humanity held its breath, waiting to see what fate awaited them. For now, all they could do was watch and prepare for the worst. In the deserts of Nevada, the air was dry and still. The sun blazed overhead, casting long shadows across the cracked earth. A single alien ship descended from the sky, its sleek, metallic surface glinting in the sunlight. It hovered for a moment before touching down gently, kicking up clouds of dust that swirled around its base. The sound it made was low and humming, unlike anything anyone had ever heard. Major Daniel Hayes stood at the edge of the landing site, his hand resting on the grip of his pistol. Behind him, a team of soldiers fanned out, their weapons raised and ready. They wore heavy tactical gear, though none of them truly believed it would protect them if things went wrong. The military had scrambled this unit as soon as radar detected the lone craft breaking away from the massive fleet in orbit. Whatever was inside, they were about to find out. "Stay sharp," Daniel muttered, his voice steady but tense. He took a step forward, signaling for his team to follow. As they approached the ship, the hum grew louder, vibrating through the ground beneath their boots. Then, without warning, a hatch opened on the side of the vessel, revealing a dark interior. For a moment, nothing happened. The soldiers exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to advance or retreat. Finally, something emerged, a towering figure, taller than any human, with an insect-like body covered in hard chitinous armor. Its limbs were long and spindly, ending in sharp claws. Multiple eyes gleamed like polished stones, scanning the group with unnatural speed. The creature didn't speak, but instead emitted bursts of light and sound from its torso, patterns shifting rapidly. Laura Bennett watched the scene unfold live via a secure video feedback at NORAD. Her brow furrowed as she analyzed the footage. "It's communicating," she whispered to herself, "but not in a way we can understand." Back in Nevada, Daniel tried to respond. "We mean you no harm," he said slowly, raising one hand while keeping the other near his weapon. "We want to talk." But the alien showed no sign of comprehension. Instead, it tilted its head, studying the humans with cold detachment. One of the soldiers shifted nervously, his finger tightening on the trigger of his rifle. "What do we do, sir?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the wind. "Hold your fire," Daniel ordered sharply. He didn't take his eyes off the creature. Despite its size and eerie appearance, it hadn't attacked yet. That gave him hope, for now. The standoff lasted only seconds more. Suddenly, the alien's body began to glow brighter, pulsing with intense energy. Before anyone could react, there was a deafening explosion of light and heat. The creature imploded, collapsing into itself in a flash that knocked everyone off their feet. When the dust settled, the ship was gone too, leaving behind only scorched earth and a faint buzzing noise that lingered in the air. Daniel struggled to his knees, coughing as smoke filled his lungs. His ears rang, and his vision blurred, but he forced himself to focus. "Status report," he barked, turning to his team. Most of them were injured but alive. Their equipment, however, wasn't so lucky. Every screen, radio, and piece of advanced tech had been fried by the blast. At no aid, Laura stared at her monitor in shock. The feed had cut out just as the explosion occurred, but she replayed the last few moments over and over. Something about the light patterns, the way they pulsed and shifted, felt familiar, like a code or a message. "This wasn't random," she murmured, grabbing a notebook and scribbling furiously. "That thing, it wasn't attacking us. It was trying to tell us something. And when we didn't understand, it self-destructed." Ryan Carter leaned over her shoulder, watching the frozen image of the alien moments before it vanished. "You think it was a warning?" Laura nodded grimly. "Maybe. Or maybe a test. Either way, we need to figure it out. And fast. Because whatever message they're sending, I don't think they're going to be patient if we fail." In the days following the mysterious explosion in Nevada, Dr. Laura Bennett worked tirelessly to decode the data recovered from the alien ship. The pieces were fragmented and incomplete, but she was determined to make sense of them. Sitting in a cramped lab at NORAD, surrounded by monitors and scattered papers, she pored over every detail. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as lines of code scrolled past on the screen. It was like solving a puzzle, except this one could mean life or death for humanity. Captain Ryan Carter stopped by her workspace often, checking on her progress. He wasn't a scientist, but he understood the stakes. If they couldn't figure out what the aliens wanted, Earth wouldn't stand a chance against the massive fleet still hovering ominously in orbit. "Anything yet?" he asked, leaning against the doorway. Laura glanced up briefly, her face pale from lack of sleep. "I think so," she said, her voice tinged with both excitement and unease. "The light patterns from that creature, they're some kind of language. Not words, exactly, but more like concepts. I've managed to isolate a few key sequences." "What do they say?" Ryan pressed, stepping closer. She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. It's not good. From what I can tell, these aliens call themselves the Krill. They're not here to negotiate or trade. Their goal is assimilation. Any species they encounter either joins their collective or gets wiped out. Ryan's jaw tightened. So, it's conquer or die. Exactly. Laura sighed, rubbing her temples. And there's something else. They operate under a hive mind. Every decision, every action comes from a central leader. Without that leader, the whole system falls apart. Ryan's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. If we take out their leader, maybe we can cripple their entire fleet. It's possible, Laura admitted. But getting close enough to do that won't be easy. Their technology is far beyond ours. Ryan nodded slowly, already formulating a plan. He left the lab and headed to the command center, where he gathered his top officers. On a large screen, he displayed a schematic of the alien armada. Thousands of ships surrounded Earth, each one bristling with weapons and defenses. But among them stood out one vessel, a colossal behemoth larger than all the others combined. Its surface shimmered with strange energy fields, making it nearly invisible to radar. That's their flagship, Ryan explained, pointing to the massive craft. If Laura's right, then their leader, the Queen, is inside. We need to hit it hard and fast before they realize what we're doing. One of the officers raised a hand. Sir, our fighters won't stand a chance against those shields. Even if we manage to get through, how do we destroy something like that? We don't use traditional weapons, Ryan replied. Turning to another officer, he added, Get me Lieutenant Chloe Walker. And prep the prototype stealth fighter, Project Dagger. This might be our only shot. Hours later, Ryan met with Chloe in a secluded hangar. She was young, barely into her 20s, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. Despite her age, she had earned a reputation as one of the best pilots in the Air Force. Standing beside her was the sleek, black craft known as Dagger, a cutting-edge aircraft designed for speed and invisibility. You'll go alone, Ryan told her, his tone grave. Your mission is simple. Infiltrate the flagship, locate the Queen, and gather intel. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Once you have the information, transmit it back to us immediately. Chloe nodded, her expression calm despite the enormity of the task ahead. Understood, sir. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. You're our best hope, Lieutenant. Bring us back something we can use. As Chloe climbed into the cockpit and powered up the engines, Ryan watched silently. He knew the odds were stacked heavily against her, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Humanity's survival depended on this single daring mission, and Chloe Walker was ready to face whatever awaited her among the stars. The night was dark and quiet as Lieutenant Chloe Walker prepared for her mission. Dagger, the sleek prototype stealth fighter, sat on the launch pad, its surface absorbing what little light there was. The craft looked almost invisible against the black sky, a perfect tool for slipping past enemy defenses. Chloe took a deep breath, her hands steady on the controls. She had trained for years for moments like this, but nothing could fully prepare her for what lay ahead. As the engines roared to life, Chloe's fighter shot into the air, climbing higher and higher until Earth became a distant glow below. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to focus. On her screen, the alien armada loomed large. Thousands of ships spread across space like a swarm of fireflies. Each one was a potential threat, yet Chloe trusted Dagger's advanced cloaking technology to keep her hidden. This is Dagger 1, she whispered into her comms, knowing Ryan and the others back at Neo 80 were listening. Approaching the fleet. Copy that, Dagger 1, came Ryan's voice, calm but firm. Stay sharp. Remember, your priority is intel. Don't take unnecessary risks. Chloe nodded even though no one could see her. Understood. Navigating through the dense formation of alien ships was nerve-wracking. Some vessels moved slowly, while others darted about with eerie precision. Every so often, a bright beam of energy would streak past, narrowly missing her craft. Chloe held her breath, guiding Dagger with careful movements, inching closer to the colossal flagship at the center of the fleet. Finally, she reached it. The mothership dwarfed everything around it, its surface covered in strange patterns that shimmered faintly. Chloe activated Dagger's scanning systems, searching for an entry point. After several tense minutes, she found a small opening, a maintenance hatch near the rear of the ship. Slowly, carefully, she maneuvered Dagger inside. The interior of the mothership was unlike anything Chloe had ever seen. The walls pulsed faintly, as if alive, and the air hummed with energy. Strange creatures scurried along the corridors, their insect-like bodies clicking softly as they worked. Some carried tools, while others dragged unconscious humans, prisoners who had been taken during earlier attacks. Chloe clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay focused. She couldn't afford to lose control now. She landed Dagger in a secluded corner and stepped out, wearing a lightweight suit designed to mask her presence. Moving silently, she followed the flow of activity, sticking to the shadows. The deeper she went, the more horrifying the sights became. Chambers filled with machinery and organic matter blended together, creating grotesque hybrids of flesh and metal. In one room, she saw rows of people being processed, hooked up to devices that drained their minds and turned them into mindless drones. Chloe recorded everything, sending live footage back to NORAD. "This is Dagger 1, she whispered urgently. "I'm transmitting visual data now. Their technology. It's beyond anything we've seen. They're converting prisoners into part of their collective." Ryan's voice crackled over the comms. "Keep moving, Lieutenant. Find the Queen." Chloe pressed on, her resolve hardening with every step. But as she neared the core of the ship, something changed. Alarms blared suddenly, filling the air with a deafening screech. Red lights flashed, bathing the corridors in an ominous glow. Chloe froze, realizing she'd been detected. "Dagger 1, you've been compromised." Ryan shouted, "Get out of there." "I'm not leaving without the intel," Chloe replied firmly. She broke into a run, dodging krill warriors that swarmed toward her. Their claws slashed at the air, narrowly missing her as she ducked and weaved through the chaos. Her heart raced, but she didn't stop. Not until she reached the chamber where the Queen waited. Peering through a cracked door, Chloe caught her first glimpse of the monstrous ruler, a towering creature made of twisted flesh and metal. It radiated power, its multiple eyes glowing with cold intelligence. This was the heart of the krill hive mind. But there was no time to waste. Already, reinforcements were closing in. Chloe planted a small tracking device on the wall and sprinted back toward Dagger, praying she could make it out alive. Back at NORAD, the tension was thick as Ryan Carter and his team watched Chloe's footage from the mothership. The images were horrifying. Rows of humans being processed into mindless drones, walls that seemed to breathe, and machines fused with living tissue. But the most chilling sight was the Queen herself. Her towering form dominated the chamber, surrounded by smaller krill warriors who tended to her like loyal servants. It was clear she was the center of everything. "She's controlling the entire fleet," Laura Bennett murmured, her eyes glued to the screen. "If we can neutralize her, the rest of them will fall apart." Ryan nodded grimly. "We need to act fast. Chloe's intel gives us a shot, but we can't waste it." He turned to the officers gathered in the command center. "Here's the plan. We'll use EMP weapons to disable key parts of their fleet. Once we've weakened them, we'll send a strike team straight for the Queen. Dagger proved we can get close. Now it's time to hit them where it hurts." The room buzzed with activity as teams scrambled to prepare. Engineers worked around the clock to modify existing missiles, with electromagnetic charges capable of disrupting the krill's advanced technology. Pilots suited up, ready to lead waves of fighters into battle. Everyone knew the odds were slim, but desperation fueled their determination. Hours later, Earth launched its counterattack. Squadrons of fighter jets screamed through the atmosphere, heading straight for the alien armada. The first wave targeted smaller ships, using EMP bursts to disable their systems. Dozens of vessels went dark, drifting helplessly in space. For a brief moment, hope flickered among the humans. But the victory was short-lived. The Krill responded with brutal efficiency. Massive beams of energy lashed out, obliterating entire squadrons in seconds. Cities on Earth lit up with fire as orbital bombardments rained down, turning once thriving metropolises into rubble. Millions died in the chaos, and the skies above burned orange with smoke and ash. Through it all, Chloe Walker fought fiercely, piloting Dagger with unmatched skill. She darted between enemy ships, firing EMP rounds while staying just out of reach. Her small craft became a ghost, striking quickly and vanishing before the Krill could retaliate. But even she couldn't escape unscathed. A lucky shot grazed Dagger's wing, sending sparks flying across the cockpit. "Dagger 1, you're hit," Ryan shouted over the comms. "Pull back." "No," Chloe replied firmly, gritting her teeth against the pain in her side. "I'm almost there. I can finish this." She pushed Dagger harder, weaving through the chaos until she reached the flagship again. This time, she didn't bother hiding. Instead, she unleashed everything she had, targeting the ship's defenses with precise strikes. Alarms blared inside the mothership as explosions rocked its outer hull. Inside, the Queen reacted violently. Her glowing eyes flared brighter, and her body twitched with rage. Through some unknown connection, she sent orders rippling through the hive mind, directing every surviving Krill warrior to focus on one target: Chloe. Back at NORAD, Laura analyzed the feedback from Chloe's tracker. "She's done it," Laura said, pointing to the screen. "The Queen is exposed. If we hit her now, we might take her down." Ryan wasted no time. "All units, concentrate fire on the flagship. Give Chloe cover." Missiles streaked toward the mothership, slamming into its weakened shields. Explosions tore through its surface, exposing the inner chambers. Chloe dove Dagger straight for the breach, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. As she entered the ship, she saw the Queen one last time, a monstrous silhouette framed by flames. "I'm going in," Chloe whispered into her comms. Then, with a final burst of speed, she disappeared into the inferno. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a massive explosion lit up the void, shaking the very fabric of space. When the dust settled, the flagship was gone, and with it, the Queen. Across the fleet, the remaining Krill ships faltered, their coordination crumbling without their leader. The aftermath of the battle left Earth in ruins. Smoke choked the skies, and the ground was littered with debris from both human and alien ships. Cities lay in ashes, their streets empty except for rescue teams searching for survivors. In the command center at NORAD, Ryan Carter sat slumped in his chair, his face lined with exhaustion. The victory over the Krill had come at a terrible price. Millions were dead, and much of the planet's infrastructure was destroyed. Humanity had survived, but it felt like a hollow win. Laura Bennett stood nearby, staring at the screens that showed the retreating Krill fleet. Her mind raced with questions. Why had they attacked? Would they return? And what about Chloe Walker? There had been no word from her since the explosion aboard the mothership. "We need to prepare," Laura said softly, breaking the silence. "They'll be back." Ryan nodded, rubbing his temples. "I know. But how do we fight them next time? We got lucky this round." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared again, not from the radar, but from the communication station. A technician turned toward Ryan, wide-eyed. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission." "It's not from the Krill." Confusion rippled through the room. Ryan stepped closer to the monitor as an image flickered to life. A tall, slender figure with pale blue skin and large almond-shaped eyes. Behind it stood sleek silver ships, their designs elegant and unfamiliar. The being spoke in a calm, melodic voice, translated instantly by advanced software. "This is Ambassador Jara of the Valen Collective. We have observed your conflict with the Krill and wish to offer our assistance." The room fell silent. No one knew whether to trust these newcomers or see them as another threat. Laura leaned forward, studying the image carefully. "Who are the Valens?" she asked aloud. Jara continued, unfazed. "We are an ancient civilization who has fought the Krill for centuries. They are relentless, driven solely by their desire to expand and consume. Left unchecked, they will destroy everything in their path, including you." Ryan crossed his arms, skeptical but curious. "Why help us now? Why not sooner?" "The Krill were once our problem alone," Jara replied. "But now they pose a danger to all life in this region of space. Your survival ensures ours. Together, we can end this threat permanently." Laura glanced at Ryan, her expression thoughtful. "If they're telling the truth, their tech could give us a real edge next time." Ryan hesitated, weighing the risks. Trusting strangers wasn't easy, especially after what humanity had just endured. But without help, Earth wouldn't stand a chance if the Krill returned. "What do you want in return?" he asked finally. "Safe passage through your territory," Jara answered simply, "and a promise to join forces against mutual threats. That is all." After a long pause, Ryan nodded. "We accept your offer, for now." Over the following days, Valen ships arrived in orbit, bringing supplies, medical aid, and advanced technology. Their engineers worked alongside Earth's scientists, sharing knowledge that would take humanity decades to develop on its own. Among the most valuable gifts was a new energy source derived from quantum fusion, clean, efficient, and powerful enough to rebuild shattered cities. Chloe Walker remained missing, presumed lost in the destruction of the mothership. Her sacrifice became a symbol of hope, inspiring countless others to step up in humanity's darkest hour. Meanwhile, Laura studied the data recovered during the battle, determined to understand the Krill better. She believed their secrets held the key to ensuring Earth's future safety. As the first shipments of Valen aid reached Earth, Ryan stood outside Norade, gazing at the stars. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself a glimmer of optimism. Humanity wasn't alone anymore. And maybe, just maybe, they had a fighting chance. But deep down, he knew the war was far from over. The Krill would regroup, stronger and angrier than before. Until then, Earth had to heal, grow, and prepare for whatever came next. The plan to strike the Krill Queen was risky, but it was the only chance humanity had. With Valen technology boosting Earth's forces, Ryan Carter assembled a small team for the mission. Chloe Walker had paved the way with her daring infiltration, and now it was up to others to finish what she started. Leading the strike team was Sergeant Ethan Cole, a grizzled veteran with years of combat experience. Beside him was Private Mia Torres, a young soldier eager to prove herself despite the overwhelming odds. Their objective was clear: infiltrate the mothership, locate the Queen's chamber, and plant explosives powerful enough to destroy her. The Valens provided advanced weapons and suits designed to mask their presence from the Krill hive mind. Each member of the team carried a small device that emitted a frequency meant to disrupt the aliens' ability to detect them, at least temporarily. As their transport ship approached the mothership, Ethan briefed the team one last time. "This isn't just about survival," he said, his voice steady but firm. "It's about making sure no one else suffers like we have. Stick together, follow orders, and stay sharp." Mia nodded, clutching her rifle tightly. She had never faced anything like this before, but she refused to let fear take over. "We'll get it done, Sergeant." When they landed inside the mothership, the air was thick with an eerie hum. The walls pulsed faintly, as if alive, and strange creatures scurried past, too busy with their tasks to notice the intruders. The team moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows and avoiding patrols of Krill warriors. Every step felt heavier than the last, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. They reached the first checkpoint, a massive door guarded by two towering Krill soldiers. Ethan signaled for silence, then motioned for Mia to use a Valen EMP grenade. She tossed it carefully, and a burst of energy disabled the guards instantly, leaving them frozen in place. The team slipped through the door and continued deeper into the ship. The further they went, the more horrifying the sights became. Chambers filled with prisoners being processed into drones, machines fused with organic matter, and endless corridors lined with glowing symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. Maya swallowed hard, trying to block out the images. "How do they live like this?" she whispered. "They don't," Ethan replied grimly. "That's why we're here." Finally, they reached the Queen's chamber. The doors were massive, reinforced with alien alloys that seemed impervious to damage. Using a Valen cutting tool, Ethan burned through the metal, creating a narrow opening. Inside, the Queen loomed over them, a grotesque fusion of flesh and machinery, her multiple eyes glowing with cold intelligence. Around her, smaller Krill warriors stood guard, ready to defend their leader at any cost. Ethan set the explosives quickly, his hand steady despite the chaos around them. "Plant the charges and fall back," he ordered. But as soon as the first charge was placed, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The Queen let out a deafening screech, and her warriors surged forward. Ethan fired his weapon, taking down several enemies, but more kept coming. "Go, get out of here," he shouted to Mia. Mia hesitated, torn between obeying orders and staying to help, but Ethan shoved her toward the exit. "That's an order, Private." Reluctantly, she turned and ran, dodging blasts of energy as she made her way back to the extraction point. Behind her, Ethan fought valiantly, buying time for the explosives to detonate. When the charges finally blew, the entire chamber erupted in flames, sending shockwaves rippling through the ship. Maya stumbled out of the mothership moments before it collapsed, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know if Ethan had made it out alive, but she knew his sacrifice wouldn't be forgotten. As the remaining Krill fleet began to retreat, Maya looked up at the stars, vowing to honor his bravery and to keep fighting for a future where humanity could stand tall among the stars. The explosion that tore through the Queen's chamber was massive, lighting up the void of space like a second sun. The shockwave rippled outward, shaking the entire alien fleet. Ships closest to the mothership were engulfed in flames, their systems failing as the hive mind connection collapsed. Without their leader, the Krill warriors became disoriented, their movements erratic and uncoordinated. One by one, the ships began to drift aimlessly or explode outright. Back on Earth, Ryan Carter watched the chaos unfold on the monitors at NORAD. His hands gripped the edge of the desk tightly as he tried to process what he was seeing. The Krill fleet, once an unstoppable force, was falling apart right before his eyes. It was working. Their desperate plan was actually working. But there was no time to celebrate. "Status report," Ryan barked, turning to the officers around him. "Most of the fleet is retreating into hyperspace," one technician replied, pointing to the screen where dozens of ships blinked out of existence. "The rest are either disabled or destroyed." "And the team?" Ryan asked, his voice quieter now. Another officer hesitated, glancing down at his console. Private Torres made it back to the extraction point, but Sergeant Cole didn't. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment, letting the weight of the news sink in. Ethan had given everything to ensure the mission succeeded. He wouldn't be forgotten. Meanwhile, aboard the transport ship carrying Maya Torres back to Earth, silence filled the cabin. Mia sat alone, staring at her hands, which still trembled from the adrenaline coursing through her body. She replayed every moment of the mission in her mind, the fight, the explosion, and Ethan's final order to leave him behind. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. Now wasn't the time to break down. Humanity needed people like her to keep going. As the transport descended toward Earth, Maya looked out the window at the battered planet below. Smoke still choked the skies, and scars of destruction marked the landscape. But amidst the ruins, she could see signs of hope. Rescue teams working tirelessly, makeshift shelters housing survivors, and Valen ships hovering overhead, offering aid. For the first time since the invasion began, Maya felt a flicker of optimism. At the same time, Laura Bennett analyzed the data transmitted during the strike. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as lines of code scrolled past on her screen. The loss of the Queen had severed the Krill's hive mind, leaving the remaining drones lifeless and inert. Laura leaned back in her chair, exhaling deeply. They had done it. They had crippled the Krill's ability to function as a unified force. But something nagged at her. The Queen's death might have ended this battle, but the war wasn't over yet. "They'll come back," Laura said aloud, speaking to no one in particular. "The Krill don't give up easily. This was just one fleet. There could be more out there." Ryan nodded grimly when Laura shared her thoughts later. "We need to prepare," he said. "Use what we've learned from the Valens to strengthen our defenses. And we can't forget about Chloe Walker. If she's alive out there, we owe it to her to find out." In the days that followed, Earth began the long process of rebuilding. Survivors came together to clear debris, tend to the injured, and bury the dead. The Valens remained true to their word, providing technology and resources to help humanity recover. Their engineers worked alongside human scientists, sharing knowledge that would take decades to develop otherwise. Maya found herself thrust into the spotlight, hailed as a hero for her role in destroying the Queen. She didn't feel like a hero, though. Every night, she dreamed of Ethan's sacrifice, wondering if she could have done more to save him. Still, she forced herself to keep moving forward, for him, for Chloe, and for everyone who had lost so much. As the weeks passed, the skies above Earth grew clearer, free of alien ships for the first time in months. People dared to hope again, clinging to the belief that they had won a reprieve. But deep down, Ryan, Laura, and Mia all knew the truth. The universe was vast, and humanity's survival depended on staying vigilant. Somewhere out there, the Krill were regrouping. And when they returned, Earth would need to be ready. Months had passed since the Krill fleet retreated, leaving Earth battered but alive. The planet was slowly healing, though scars remained, both on the land and in the hearts of its people. Cities were being rebuilt, powered by the new energy source Laura Bennett had developed using Valen technology. Clean and efficient, it brought light back to darkened streets and hope to weary souls. Yet despite the progress, no one dared to relax. The memory of the invasion lingered like a shadow, a constant reminder that peace was fragile. Ryan Carter spent most of his days overseeing reconstruction efforts and preparing for the inevitable return of the Krill. He worked closely with Ambassador Jara and the Valens, learning everything he could about their enemies. The Valens shared grim stories of centuries-long battles against the Krill, painting a picture of an enemy that never gave up, never forgave, and always came back stronger. "They will not forget this defeat," Jara warned during one meeting. "When they return, they will bring fury." Laura, meanwhile, devoted herself to studying the remnants of Krill technology left behind after the battle. She set up a lab in what remained of No-Raid headquarters, poring over fragments of alien ships and drones. Her goal was simple: understand how the Krill fought, how they operated, and how humanity could counter them next time. Late at night, when the world was quiet, she often thought about Chloe Walker. Was it possible she had survived? Or was she lost forever, another casualty of the war? Mia Torres struggled to adjust to life after the mission. Though hailed as a hero, she felt burdened by guilt. Ethan's sacrifice weighed heavily on her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she should have done more. To cope, she threw herself into training, determined to become stronger and sharper. She joined a special unit tasked with defending Earth against future threats, working alongside soldiers who shared her determination. Together, they drilled tirelessly, preparing for a fight none of them wanted, but all knew was coming. One evening, as Mia walked through the base, she noticed Ryan standing alone near a window, staring at the stars. His expression was unreadable, but she could sense the weight he carried. "Sir," she said softly, approaching him. Ryan glanced at her, offering a faint smile. "Private Torres, how's the training going?" "It's good," Maya replied. "We're ready for whatever comes next." Ryan nodded, turning his gaze back to the sky. "I hope so. But readiness isn't just about weapons or tactics. It's about unity. We can't let fear divide us. Not now, not ever." Mia followed his gaze, her eyes scanning the vast expanse above. Despite the destruction Earth had endured, the stars still shone brightly, untouched by the chaos below. "Do you think we'll see them again?" she asked quietly. "I don't think it's certain," Ryan answered. "The Krill won't stop until they've conquered or been destroyed. Our job is to make sure it's the latter." Back in her lab, Laura made a breakthrough. Hidden within the data recovered from the Queen's chamber was a faint signal, a repeating pattern that seemed to emanate from deep space. At first, she thought it might be residual noise, but further analysis revealed something chilling: coordinates. The signal pointed to a distant region of the galaxy, far beyond human reach, but clearly significant to the Krill. This could be their homeworld, Laura murmured to herself, her heart racing. If true, it meant humanity finally had a target, a place to strike before the Krill could regroup fully. She forwarded the findings to Ryan immediately, knowing it would change everything. When Ryan received the report, he called an emergency meeting with Laura, Mia, and Ambassador Jara. "If these coordinates are accurate," he said, spreading a star map across the table, "we may have found the Krill's origin point. This could be our chance to end the threat once and for all." Jara studied the map carefully, her expression grave. "A bold move," she said, "but dangerous. Attacking their homeworld would provoke a response unlike anything you faced before." Ryan met her gaze evenly. "We can't wait for them to come to us. Not again. If we want to survive, we need to take the fight to them." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the enormity of the decision. Humanity had clawed its way back from the brink of extinction once. Now they faced a choice: stay and defend, or strike first and risk everything. For better or worse, the path forward was clear. Earth would rebuild, grow stronger, and prepare for the next chapter in its fight for survival. And when the time came, they would face the Krill head-on, wherever the stars led them. Months turned into years, and Earth transformed in ways few could have imagined. The scars of the Krill invasion remained visible: abandoned cities, memorials for the fallen, and patches of land still barren from orbital bombardments. But life moved forward. Humanity had learned to adapt, to rebuild, and most importantly, to prepare. With Violent technology and Laura Bennett's innovations, Earth became stronger than ever before. New ships were constructed, faster and more advanced than anything humanity had dreamed of. Soldiers trained rigorously, their ranks filled with men and women inspired by stories of courage like those of Chloe Walker and Ethan Cole. Laura continued her work, driven by both curiosity and duty. She spent countless hours studying the faint signal pointing to the Krill homeworld. Though the journey would be long and perilous, she believed it was a risk worth taking. "If we can strike at the heart of their empire," she told Ryan one evening, "we might stop them forever." Ryan agreed, though the decision wasn't easy. He gathered Earth's leaders, along with Ambassador Jara, to discuss the plan. "We can't wait for them to return," he said firmly. "This is our chance to protect not just Earth, but every species they threaten." The mission required a fleet of its own, a coalition of human and Violent ships designed to travel across the galaxy. Maya Torres volunteered immediately, earning a place among the crew. Over the years, she had grown into a confident leader, respected by her peers. For her, this mission was personal. It was about honoring Ethan's sacrifice and ensuring no one else had to lose someone they cared about. As the fleet prepared for departure, people around the world came together to send them off. Crowds gathered in rebuilt cities, waving flags and cheering as the ships launched into the sky. Among them was Ryan Carter, now retired but watching proudly as the next generation took up the mantle. "Make us proud," he whispered, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. The journey through space was long and quiet, the vast emptiness outside the windows a reminder of how far they were from home. Inside the ships, however, there was a sense of purpose. Crew members worked tirelessly, running simulations, checking equipment, and planning strategies. Mia often found herself staring out at the stars, wondering what awaited them at the end of their voyage. When they finally reached the coordinates, the sight was breathtaking and terrifying. A massive planet loomed ahead, surrounded by an armada of krill ships larger than any they had faced before. This was their stronghold, their origin point. The battle that followed was fierce, testing every ounce of skill and determination the Coalition possessed. Explosions lit up the void as human and Valen forces fought side by side, pushing deeper into enemy territory. In the chaos, Maya led a strike team onto the surface of the planet, targeting key structures that controlled the krill's operations. Resistance was heavy, but the team pressed on, fueled by the knowledge that failure wasn't an option. When the final structure collapsed, a wave of silence swept over the battlefield. The krill fleet began to falter, their coordination breaking down. Back aboard the flagship, Laura monitored the data streaming in. "It's working," she said, her voice trembling with relief. "Their systems are shutting down." As the dust settled, the Coalition emerged victorious. The krill threat had been neutralized for now. But as the ships turned toward home, Mia glanced out the window one last time. In the distance, a faint signal flickered, barely noticeable against the backdrop of stars. It was a reminder that the universe was vast and full of mysteries and dangers. Humanity had won a great victory, but vigilance would always be necessary. On Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the success spread. People cheered, hugged, and cried, grateful for the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. Yet Ryan stood quietly, gazing at the horizon. He knew the fight for survival was never truly over.